Alright, let's get right away started with our first trade of today. Our first trade of today happened at 2:30 a.m. New York local time with our stochastic RSI crossover here. We had a crossover above the 80 level here on our stochastic RSI. We closed below the VWAP right here, the Session Pro indicator VWAP. It's a free accumulation zone indicator. The link for that will also be in the description box below. So we closed below the VWAP, and the Scalping Pro color right here turned from green over to red. Interesting. So the candle coloring is matching up, so this is a valid entry right here. I decided to go for a 7.5 pip stop loss right here up to those highs right here. But unfortunately, after 5-10 minutes, I got stopped out with this massive fake out wick to the upside, basically filling in an old fair value gap. But that's not really part of the strategy. The reason I continued with another entry short into this market was this big sell-off right here. So basically what happened during this 5-minute candle was a massive rally to the upside, filling in this fair value gap, and then sellers stepped into the market and continued pushing prices down more and more and more, and leaving behind a, let me quickly measure it out right here, a almost 13 pip wick here to the upside. And then doing what I usually do, I always have the DXY indicator, or not indicator really, a separate pane of the DXY right here on my chart. And the way I do it is I simply click on compare at symbol, and then I'm hovering over the US dollar index here by TVC. And then usually what I added to a new pane. Once I added it to a new pane, I go into the settings right here. And in the style section, I'm choosing the style candles. And right here, where your scale usually is, I click on invert scale, so I can simply compare highs with highs and lows with lows. But make sure you don't get confused. And the reason I continued taking a short here is because I did not get this fake out wick to the upside basically, or this stop hunt here on the DXY. So I had my confirmation right here. And we also had the stochastic RSI, which hasn't been below the 20 level, which would have been a definite no-go for me to continue entering into this trade. But as you can see, we got our entry perfectly prior to this big, I think 150 pip drop on GBP USD. We did not take out the Asia highs. This would have been ideal if this wick actually continued going up higher for a few more pips above the Asia high liquidity right here, above this double top relative equal highs. But unfortunately, we did not see this wick breaking the buy side liquidity above the Asian highs. We hit our 2-to-1 risk reward with our entry right here. I went for a 12.5 pip stop loss right here, hit a 25 pip take profit target, and this was still inside our Asia low to Asia high range, which makes it a high probability trade. Of course, leaving a runner open would have definitely paid off, because this actually continued dropping from our entry all the way to the bottom for 165 pips. A massive drop today on GBP USD, basically within 5, 10, 15, let's say half an hour, and then we continued going sideways for a little bit and continued dropping a little bit further down until I spotted this absolutely amazing DXY divergence here on pound US dollar. So the DXY divergence is basically a SMT divergence. This concept has been brought to my attention from ICT, the inner circuit trader. And what I saw here is that on the DXY, we actually formed a lower low here at an extreme point. Like, you see how the candles are not really moving by much anymore, very small body candles compared to this big sell-off we had at the beginning of the London kill zone. So I checked the Euro US dollar chart, the Aussie US dollar chart, and on all charts, all charts aligned with the DXY, so there was no divergence between the correlated asset pair. So because the British pound right here on this chart is pegged to the US dollar. And in a perfect world, we should have also seen a lower low here on the pound US dollar chart, but we did not get it. That makes it a valid DXY divergence. And at the same time, I got my Scalping Pro candle color change confirmation right here with this. I would consider it a momentum candle right here. with almost no wick to the upside, I entered here into this trade with a 13.5 pip stop loss right here, placing my stop loss right here where I had this alert going on. Luckily, this alert has never been triggered afterwards, and I took some partials right here as soon as we took out those highs right here, moved my stop loss closer to my entry price, and then closed 80% of the position right here as soon as we breached this level right here prior to 8 AM New York local time when the New York kill zone begins. So I already closed out 80% of my positions, now having my stop loss at break even so I can't lose any more money, and it hit a full take profit target of a 8.56 risk reward all the way back up to the sell side liquidity that we drew up initially, which represents the Asia lows, and we wicked just little bits inside of it, basically filling a old fair value gap right here before retracing further back down, retesting our Asia low, continuing further to the downside. And inside this massive trade here, I think it was up to a 120 pip reversal, 115 pips up onto the Asia lows. Again, we got another beautiful entry with our stochastic RSI Scalper Pro strategy right here. We had our bullish crossover of the stochastic RSI right here with a beautiful bullish engulfing candle. The trend right here, let me actually make a little bit more room. The trend color did not change on the Scalper Pro. We can also open up the Scalper Pro here. We see that we squeezed out of this momentum right here, so we had this big expansion of the Scalper Pro bands, and then the bands got really narrow, and then we finally broke out of this squeeze, and I anticipated a move to the upside because we also been below the bullish reversal zone here on the Scalper Pro indicator. So overall, a very awesome trade setup. I'm very glad that I actually took it, and that's the power of focusing on one chart per day, at least for one kill zone. During the next kill zone, starting here at 8 AM New York local time, 5 minutes afterwards, we got this bullish engulfing candle with the crossover. I placed my stop loss for a 15 pip stop loss right here below the slow, adding a little bit of room for the spread, and it also hit a 2-to-1 risk reward ratio rather quickly, I think within 15 minutes almost, which made it a very profitable scalping day today on British pound US dollar. Afterwards, I stopped trading and I did some more coding for one of my clients and actually missed out on another beautiful scalping entry long right here. Now this time we've been above the VWAP. Right here I decided to take this entry because I was already leading towards a bullish bias and we've been inside of a bullish market structure. So I ignored that we've been below the VWAP this time and I can only recommend doing this if you are a intermediate to a professional trader. If you're just starting out using the strategy, definitely use the Session Pro VWAP right here as your trend filter to filter out for long and short positions. Your next valid short position today on GBP USD would have occurred right here at 9:10 AM New York local time. Again, oh hang on, let me redraw that, for a 2-to-1 risk reward back inside Asia low. Back inside our Asian range basically. So now let's move over from GBP USD over to Euro US dollar. On Euro US dollar we only got one entry during the London kill zone right here, and this entry happened also at 2:40 AM New York local time. I think on pound US dollar we got our entry at 2:45 and 2:30. So you could have traded both charts at the same time, but I personally like to focus on only one chart. Right here we had our stochastic RSI crossover already on this candle. Being a little bit more patient, one of our accumulation zone members I think entered right here on this candle, and if he did not enter on this candle, it would have still been, as of course again I've marked out my Asia highs and my Asia lows right here. We bounced once, twice and 3 times off this price level, and then we finally broke through it with a momentum shifting candle right here. Our stochastic RSI crossed over and still isn't oversold yet right here. The stochastic RSI is just below the 50 level, and even if you would have entered on this bigger momentum shifting candle going for a 20 pip stop loss or whatever you would have chosen, your 2-to-1 risk reward ratio would have been hit, so making this a very easy 2-to-1 or 2% profit day on Euro US dollar. And I also want to mention that right here on Euro US dollar, I mentioned it earlier that I compared GBP, Euro and Aussie US dollar for DXY divergence, and Pound US dollar. The Pound US dollar chart was the only chart that showed this DXY divergence forming this higher low compared to the Euro US dollar, which also formed a lower low. That's why I chose to take this reverse opportunity right here on the British Pound US dollar. We could also check for Scalper Pro divergence right here, but we did not get a Scalper Pro divergence. Maybe here on Euro US dollar, yep, we actually got a bullish divergence on the Scalper Pro right here, because we formed a low right here where we formed our extreme low point here on Euro US dollar. Then we continued making a lower low, but at the same time on the Scalper Pro we formed a higher low. Even though it's not really that much of a difference, it's still a good confluence for a reverse opportunity, especially since we are below the bullish reversal zone band right here, and we're also squeezing, breaking out. So if you would have, for example, bought the breakout right here on this candle at 7:25 a.m. New York local time, you could have scalped a nice little 50 pip move here all the way to the upside, or a let me measure that again, a 40 pip movement all the way up to the all the way back up to the VWAP. Also a very simple 2-to-1 risk reward ratio. This trade was posted by one of our accumulation zone community members inside our free Telegram and Discord channel. So if you haven't joined that yet, make sure you do. The links for that are in the description below. So I really hope you enjoyed watching this first trade recap of 2023. I think I covered some very important topics today with the DXY divergence, and in general just a little refreshment of the Scalper Pro stochastic RSI strategy. And I will see you tomorrow in the next accumulation zone trade recap. Take care guys and trade safe.